You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's The Amazing Race After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's The Amazing Race After Show.
Yes, Bing is for doing, and we are doing The Amazing Race. Welcome, my name is Nando Velasquez, and we're here to recap season 22, episode 4, also called I Love Monkeys. I'm just added the intonation. I like that intonation. That's fine. Yes. Joining me this week is, as last week, James Wallington, everybody.
Hello, I'm James Wallington. It's great to be back.
And we have a new addition. Look at this. We have a new person on the show with us, and this is Jessica Carroll, right?
Yay!
They had to bring some pink to the room.
And
Hi, I'm Jessica.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what brings you here to The Amazing Race.
Well, I secretly want to be on the show. Actually, not secretly. Everybody knows. I want to be on the show. I'm an adrenaline rush junkie. I want to travel the world and skydive and be on Amazing Race. Do you guys want to be my partners?
Oh, yeah.
I would love to be your
I would
partner.
love to sign
Amazing.
It would be 3 people, though.
The Amazing AfterBuzz team.
There you go.
Yes, Team AfterBuzz.
Maybe if they have a family edition again, we could just need a
Oh,
fourth
that was my
person.
favorite. That was my favorite edition of The
We
Amazing
could do a
Race.
family edition, the AfterBuzz family. That's what
Yes.
we can do.
Down. Let's
Otherwise,
do
we're
it.
going to have to fight for, someone's going to have to get left
boy.
out. We'll have to
You
roast
guys should
down
call
both.
in and say there should be an AfterBuzz family.
Team AfterBuzz.
Absolutely. It sounds like fun. I'm already in. I'm in. Totally. So, all right, well, let's get into the episode. So just starting off right now, we have Dave and Connor, who I think is a favorite right now for everybody, just because of the circumstances they have right now. Dave is still hobbling on one leg.
Yeah,
and
is.
he just when we last left off on a big cliffhanger, which was Dave and Connor miraculously got in first place with the help of an express pass. But here they are thinking they're going to have a nice little 12-hour break. Maybe they can check on the leg and get some liquids and just rest and whatever else. See a little bit of Christchurch, New Zealand. And Phil says, "Nope, you are going to continue this leg right now." And then Dave has this look on his face like, "Oh no."
Do you think that they should have had an elimination?
I love that they do this continuous lag because it really shows that anything is unpredictable. You know what I mean? Like anything can happen on the show, and that's why I love the continuous lag. But I remember last week we had discussed on our show, what if he actually eliminated someone and they didn't continue to the second part of the lag?
That's interesting. I'll bring that up when we go down to recap. So they actually decided to just breeze through, since it wasn't as important, the placement. They just decided to breeze through the 9 teams in order. So just starting out, just so you know, the order was Dave and Connor, so the father-son team, followed by our what we call the SoCal Surfers, Jessica and John, who also had the other express pass. We'll get to a lot more with them later. And then Bates and Anthony, which are the hockey brothers. They were in third, followed very closely behind by Pam and Winnie, who we don't have really a name for. We kept talking about, we got to get a name for them. Best friends?
BFFs.
Team BFFs. There you go, Team BFFs. Then Team 5 was Hash YouTube, Joey and Megan. Team 6, the country singers, Caroline and Jennifer. Then leading the last 3 were Derby Moms, Mona and Beth. The Newlyweds, Max and Katie. And Team Bama. Bama taking up the rear, excuse me.
The mullet.
That was me trying to be exactly. Now, the one interesting thing I noticed too, I mean, there was no elimination. It would be really interesting, but there was no penalty for 9th place either.
Yeah.
Right.
Bama did not get a speed bump.
No, that's true. That's a good point. I
That
never
is-
even looked
I
at
didn't
it like
think of
that.
that either.
Yeah. So, I mean, usually they try and at least penalize you for, this is why you don't go in last place. If you don't get eliminated, great, you don't get eliminated, but you have to pay something.
Yeah.
You have to
True.
pay a price.
I think since it was a continued leg, that there was no penalty. Because normally when it's a non-elimination leg, there's no continue forward. there usually is a penalty. So I think maybe that would be why.
Okay.
Maybe their penalty was just everybody had to keep going for 4 days.
So then everyone was penalized the exact same?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, I guess then it makes it all fair, but maybe next year they'll have a penalty.
I would have liked to have seen that added in.
Yeah.
There was a lot in this episode anyway, but I just was surprised that they got really, really lucky to be in last place and not have to worry about a speed bump, especially with some of these teams being so strong.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It really would hurt to.
I'm kind of glad that it wasn't an elimination, though, because I can't get enough of Chuck's hair. Because every time I see him running in a challenge and that hair is just flowing in the wind, I can't get enough of it. And I think that of all the teams this season, I mean, we talked about last week, all the teams have a niche.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're from Alabama, but I feel like they're the most real in the sense that they really don't know anything about TV. They come from Alabama. You know, they are like backwoods, like love hunting. So that's why I'm rooting for them, because like I feel like the everyday American can just relate to a married couple just having fun together.
I'm rooting for them, but then again, I feel like Chuck is really holding that team together.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, it needs to be a little more balanced, I feel.
Winona's got to open up a little bit. Yeah, she's got to show a little something.
I mean, we don't really know much about her.
Yeah.
She needs to come out. We want to see more.
And she keeps pushing him to the forefront. Every time she has a chance to step up, every time there's a roadblock where there's an opportunity, she's like, Chuck, she's going to have to do a few of them.
Right. It'll come back to
How
better.
many is it?
Well, they usually try and make it even.
Yeah,
So
I think they have to, once you do 6 or 5, I think it's 5 or 6,
Yeah.
then you can't do any more roadblocks. So you have to kind of use them wisely throughout the race.
Because that brings up another point, is what's going to happen with Connor and Dave.
That's a really good question. I was thinking that too. What's going to happen with them? They can't.
Right, like Connor can't just keep doing everything.
Right.
I think what has to happen is they just have to judge which parts of the race are going to be athletic, which aren't. And sometimes with the clue, you can't really tell. As you'll see later, sometimes with the clue, you just can't really tell if it's going to be a physical activity, if it's going to be maybe an eating challenge, or something more thinking, or just something more cerebral, which I'm sure Dave would be more looking forward to. Looking forward to more.
Well, they lucked out in this one because it really wasn't with the fruit top.
Oh yeah.
They could both really participate.
Well, for that. But let's get to them getting to ballet first of all. Let's just split up the teams because they obviously got split up into 3 flights.
Yes.
The first flight was Max and Katie, newlyweds. Dave and Connor. We had the country singers, and we had Pam and Winnie, BFFs. So they got to arrive at 8:30 a.m. in the morning to Bali, and then the other 2 flights were supposed to get in about 3.5 hours later, and that the second flight was Derby Moms, Hockey Bros, and Bama. And the third flight was going to be our SoCal Surfers and YouTube. #YouTube. They lucked out. They found a flight that got in at 10:35. So right now they're in the second leg going in. So based on this, what are your thoughts about the placement? Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you really think that the strongest teams are in the front? Do you think the teams in the back are a little more weaker? Which would be Bama, Hockey Moms, and Derby Moms and Hockey Guys.
I think it really just showed who travels a lot and who doesn't.
Yeah.
Because Max and Katie, they knew right away to go to the travel agent.
Oh yeah.
And same with Connor and Dave, right?
Yes.
Those 2, they went right to the travel agency and got a flight. The other girls, the BFFs, they lucked out by finding an internet or a computer.
Right.
And so I think it just showed who travels and who doesn't, because a lot of people would just go to the airport and try to get a flight.
That's true.
Yeah.
So
I know some of these countries, they usually sometimes say in a clue that you can't go to the airport, but I guess not in this one.
Right.
Because they had that problem at the airport.
right.
I think flights really do come into play as far as placement. I think you see it on every season of The Amazing Race. It really does come down to if you're going to place in the top placements at the end of the leg or you're going to come in last. Because if you look, we'll talk about the pit stop later, but if you look at the people that placed 1 through 4, they were all on the first flight. So flights really do come into play for this game. You want to make sure you are on that first flight or the best flight to get to the next destination before everyone else.
Oh yeah, and there's always so much stress, especially with the connecting flights, because you never know about those connecting flights. So
Right.
you want to have as much headway as possible.
Right.
So
And a flight, that could put you back, 3 hours, and what you're doing, just sitting at an airport waiting for your flight. It's not like you can just drive or walk,
Right.
you know?
But I will say, great job for team hashtag YouTube and for SoCal
The
Surfers.
Alliance.
The Alliance for going to their stopover and finding an earlier flight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was a big deal. I don't know if you noticed, but when they were showing the maps, they actually passed, both those flights passed over
Over and then went
Bali
back.
and had to go back.
Yeah.
So, wow, they made up a lot of good time doing that. So, let's see. Well, when they finally got to Bali, probably the most fun thing I've ever seen, they had to get a monkey to open up a coconut. I mean, this is
Okay.
the name of the the name of the show is I Love Monkeys, so that says it all right there.
The name of the show and the teasers made me so excited for this episode because I love monkeys. I think they are the cutest things. I
You
do
sound
wanna,
like Carolyn.
I know. I do want to know if when they were eating the coconuts, if it hurt them. Do you think it hurt their teeth?
Who knows?
I
They
don't
were
know.
tearing it apart. Like,
Animals are
real
strong.
well.
Those animals are strong.
What did you think of when the YouTubers were doing their little monkey voice?
That was not surprising to me. That just seems so Joey to me. So Megan, like they make fun of every situation. They make light of every situation. They're
like-
YouTube hosts. Like they have to be animated and over the top and fun in order to keep a following. And I think that's what keeps them interesting on the show. Is like I said last week, they bring their own flair, and I love that about them.
They're having fun, and I could see that. I could see this getting really stressful because you saw some of these monkeys are taking coconuts and they're running up trees, and it's like, where's my clue? Where's my clue?
Yeah.
So they seem to have a handler, a monkey handler
They had
there
to
that they
come
showed. So I have a feeling maybe if for some reason a monkey just darted and ran off, that they'd eventually give them a clue. They'd have to do something like that.
the
but,
monkey expert would come to the rescue.
Yeah,
monkey
yeah, just
expert.
take something from his back pocket and just hand it out. But I would imagine that being very stressful, especially if you're the first team and you just happen to, because that kind of did happen a little bit with the first teams that showed up. I think it was Max and Katie, or had a coconut, and the monkey went to Dave and Connor instead.
Yeah.
I think it was, and they were just like, "No, we were the first ones here." So that must have been really intense for me.
Can we? I know we all talked about it, and I know we want to talk about it. Let's talk about the flying squirrel.
Oh
The
God.
flying squirrel story in the bra. What is that all about?
Flying squirrel in the bra dies of loneliness.
How does that make sense?
True or false?
Well, I'm guessing that it's true that the flying squirrel died in Caroline's bra, but I don't know how you could tell if someone died from loneliness. I think that's just more about her own personal sex life. I think that's what the comment is. Just saying that nothing else has lived, or nothing else is touched under that bra.
I just thought, oh my gosh, I just thought it was such a weird thing to say or even share. Like that just really put me off. I was like, what the
Yeah.
heck?
Although I do love them because on the way to the monkeys, they were singing in the taxi, jamming with Mr. Taxi Guy, and he gave her a flower and she put it in her little hair. I like them.
That's great. No, that's the kind of stuff that karmically, I think, pays off when you're in a taxi and you have a good attitude. That's why hashtag YouTube does so well too.
Right.
I think when you have a good attitude with the people that you are dealing with in these countries, it usually comes back and it pays you back.
Right.
So
And it also shows that even though they're in this stressful competition, they're still enjoying it and having
you
fun.
gotta have
Right.
fun.
Right.
Yeah, you totally gotta have fun. So anyway, so pretty much all the teams survived that, and the placement more or less was about the same, just because the flights were just as
Right.
far the same about far back. But the only problem I saw was the hockey guys. Bates and Anthony, they apparently were having taxi trouble even then,
yeah.
because they showed up later than everybody else for that, and they were pretty much in the end, toward the rest of the episode, pretty much. They were my pick to who might be going this week, and,
Right.
I know.
and I kind of thought like, wow, man, I was surprised I called it. I know at least one comment on YouTube was like, come on, it's the Hockey brothers, they're really athletic, and I'm
Right.
like, no, they got their
Right.
they got
And
some
then
weaknesses
They chose the fruit top over the sand.
because of the taxi.
Yeah, but I was confused about that because the taxi driver didn't know where to go.
That's what I was led to believe.
Okay.
They asked the taxi driver after it was so much trouble just to get
there.
to the monkey park, which I want to visit, by the way. I want to visit at Monkey Park.
Right.
I forgot
Oh,
to say. But yeah, after they did that, they were smart enough at least. That was a smart move to say, look, do you know where this place is? No? Okay, we're doing the other thing. So I give them credit for that, because I think they would have been eliminated if they just randomly jumped in the taxi, because
Sure.
other teams have done that before.
Yeah.
And just trusted a taxi driver, and then it was too late. But yeah, so anyway, so when they all opened up their coconuts, or the monkeys opened up the coconuts and they got their clues, they had a choice between what was called Sandy Bottom, which was they got to and Fruity Top. And Sandy Bottom was they got to collect sand from a river, and then and they had to put it over their heads and carry it 200 yards to fill up a container, and then they get their clue. Whereas Fruity Top was prepare that elaborate offering with fruit. It'll look just like the example. And then they got to carry it to a parade where a woman got to put this heavy thing on her head as well. They seem to like putting things on top of their heads in Bali. And take it to I guess a sacred area where it got blessed by a priest, a church, or I'm not sure what they would call that, but an altar of some sort. And just about everybody took Fruity Top. Except for the Derby moms, because they're
tough.
They're tough.
Women.
They're built tough. So and then if Carter and I'm sorry, if Bates and Anthony could have gone in, they would have done that too. So what do you think? Would you guys have seeing both of those challenges? What challenge would you guys have done?
Fruity Top for sure.
Yeah,
I would have too. We should be a team.
Because we should. Because I just don't think my head is that strong to carry a thing of sand on my head.
It just seems like the sandy bottom would have been a lot more exhausting physically, and especially if you've been running for like 3 days on this leg that seems never ending.
True.
I think it was a no-brainer for everyone to just pick Fruity Top. No matter how strong you were, it was just more that seemed easier because that's more hands-on, interactive, and not as physically grueling as, you know.
No, I kind of agree. Especially, that was a good point. After the fact that they hadn't had any rest,
Right.
That they probably are a bit depleted as it is. So, although sometimes you those things, if you just have a little bit of adrenaline, you know, you can power through those things so much faster than these intricate ones. I mean, seeing now that we saw both, I think I'd prefer Fruity Top too. But for me, it would have been this one would have been a much tougher decision than fishing or anything else.
Oh, right. Or what was it, feathers and molasses?
Yeah. Well, that was the roadblock.
Oh, that was the roadblock.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Yeah.
but yeah. So anyway, so everybody pretty much took Fruity Top.
One thing that drove me nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you're probably about to mention this. But John and Jessica switching up their detour because they couldn't get the Fruity Top right, and that frustrated me. I think the moment they made that choice, I looked at my TV screen. I was like, they're done. Well, if they don't use that express pass now or for the roadblock, I knew they were going home.
Well, even before they did that, they got lost. That
Yeah.
was that whole little funny thing where they got lost.
Oh, that was by far the funniest thing. I was cracking up. They were making this little thing at a resident's home. The guy's looking at him like, what are you
And they're trying
doing?
to put the sarongs or whatever on them. And
I was just like, there's no one else around.
Would you let somebody come into your house, let's say, oh, we're part with a camera crew, and say, oh yeah, we're here for a competition, and maybe they don't speak English, maybe it's like some other language, some other country doing an amazing race in the U.S., and then they see you cooking or something. They're like,
soaked it up.
Oh, we're supposed to cook too. Or whatever you're doing. They spent a good amount of time. I love the little thing they made, though. It was really pretty.
Yeah.
They should have
It was
kept
like
it.
in this
Whatever
thing
they
they're
were
calm.
making.
Yeah.
It's like what you would make at summer camp. Or
What was it, like
something.
made out of flowers?
It was
or...
some kind of potpourri or something.
Yeah.
It looked like a potpourri envelope or something. Is that crazy? And then they got sarongs, but they got sarongs from that house.
They were just like, here, try on our clothes.
I
No
know.
problem.
They got sarongs, and they left with the. I don't know if you noticed this. They left with those same sarongs.
stole 'em.
They stole. They run in with a camera crew. They start messing around with some stuff, and they steal clothing.
man.
What a great souvenir, though. You know what I gotta say? Like, I would love one of those.
I was cracking up. So funny.
That was one of the best moments, I really think, of any season I've seen so far. That was actually a really good moment for me.
And then when they get there and John, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, John goes, okay, Jessica, put your game face on. We have to focus. Let's do this.
Let's focus up. Let's do this. Like a football
Get your
player.
game face.
Let's put some fruit on some sticks. Let's do it right now. Fruits on sticks.
Gosh.
Then they start building.
Yeah.
And what do?
I don't even
Take
know.
the whole thing apart. I mean, they could have at least taken a little bit apart, but they start completely from scratch.
Well, it's hard to see. You know, it is hard to see exactly where people were going wrong in that competition because everything looked very close.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously, the criteria that the people there had for this offering were very strict.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll clue us in, like if there's something really sticking out, like they'll do a quick zoom in on that one thing. But they didn't really show us much about that, so it's kind of hard to tell. But the team that surprised me the most in that challenge was Pam and Winnie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was them stepping up because I guess one of them, I can't remember which one, said they had set design experience.
Right.
And they
Right.
were really smart. I thought it was a really smart move of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of them? Do you think they're stepping up, James?
I like Pam and Winnie. I think they say a lot of funny things. Like, I was dying when, I don't know which one said it, but, oh, I hope the monkeys don't poop in our face.
Yeah.
They just have the funniest one-liners that are just so awkward that you're like, why would you say that?
And they say it so nonchalant.
Like, no big deal.
Yeah.
I just hope it doesn't poop in my face. Like, I just said poop 3 times. That was the third time.
4 times.
4 times.
There you go. Just keep going.
What's on his mind?
Keep going.
Sorry. But yeah, I do like Pam and Winnie, and I think ever since Nat and Kat won a few seasons back, they've been finding really strong all female teams and that are really strong contenders, and I'm impressed with Pam and Winnie.
I'm gonna be honest. I thought they were a weak team. Last week, I had them as one of the ones I thought would go this week, but I was really impressed. I mean, they got to the first plane and they pretty much stayed on top. Yeah. If it wasn't for a little flub at the end, which we'll talk about, you know, they possibly would have gotten that leg.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so all the teams pretty much did okay, except for, of course, our SoCal surfers. Just stressed out, huh? I guess there's when you
change up the momentum of what you're already doing, like going to a whole different detour, that sets you far behind. You should guarantee the fact that you will be in the bottom 2. Like, you will be competing for second to last place.
You mentioned that when they decided to switch detours, that's when you were going crazy.
Oh, I was like, why would you do that? All the other teams are here, right? Well, Joey and Megan, and I believe Bama was still there.
Yeah.
You at least know there's 2 other teams here. Keep doing your best.
Right.
Again, the moment you change your momentum, your game falls apart.
When I was screaming at the camera, frustrated, or at the TV screen, so frustrated, was when they got to the other detour and they realized that the Derby girls weren't there, and they actually thought that they were still behind them, that they hadn't even come yet. And I thought that once they showed up at the second detour and Derby girls weren't there, that's when they should have been like, okay,
Express Pass.
let's use the Express Pass.
Okay, but you know, look at their side here as well. First of all, they've been playing very, very smart up to this point.
Absolutely.
Very, very strong team. I think all of us would
Like
have
in
agreed
the
last
lead.
week we would have put them at least in the top 3 or top 4.
Right.
They probably would have made it to the finale.
Of course.
Because they're thinking very smart. They're looking at alliances. They were a little conniving. Their only weakness would probably be they were little. Maybe they overthought things too much, and they might have made some enemies if they kept playing.
Yeah.
But this is only the third leg. Still the third leg. I mean, do you really want to use your Express Pass that early? How long do you wait before you say, you know what, I know it's really early in the game, but we got to use it?
I mean, it's the Amazing Race. I think that anything can happen, and you can't overthink it. You just got to do it. You know, if that point in the game, I would have used it. Especially if you went to the other detour and there was nobody there.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know where we are in this leg. I need to use it.
Okay.
I mean, after they saw all those people go through, and then they show up at the second detour and there's no one there, I mean, in my head, I would just realize, like, okay, we're obviously at the bottom here.
Yeah.
So I would have used it. But then again, and also they were so careful about who to give their second Express Pass to that you could tell that they were really analyzing the Express Pass.
Yeah, well, even at the beginning of the show, when they first introduced him as coming in second place, John was saying that they wanted to play this game strategically smart, and they said they wanted to extract as much value out of their Express Pass as they possibly can.
Yep.
So I totally get the fact that they felt they weren't getting the most value out of it, and to be honest, even if they didn't even by not using the Express Pass at that detour, they still had a shot.
Yeah.
They still had a shot. They had multiple opportunities to say, let's use the Express Pass this episode. They just didn't choose to do it.
Yeah.
So
are they allowed to use the Express Pass on the Roadblock? I wasn't sure if that was made clear ever.
I believe.
Is it just Detour?
Oh, that's a good question. I thought they could use it for any challenge.
Okay.
I was under that impression, but you might be right about that too.
Because I mean, at that point, since they did catch up at the Roadblock and it was between them and Chuck and Winona, I would have been like, screw it, no problem, I'm using this.
I was under the impression, well, we'll talk about the Roadblock in a little bit, but I was under the impression it sounded like Jessica was trying to convince John to do the Roadblock, even when things were incredibly last minute. But we'll talk about that. In fact, before we go on, let me take the time right now to just mention that most of you are probably listening to us on iTunes, and if you're not, you can listen to us on iTunes. There's about 59 other shows from AfterBuzz. If you have a favorite TV show on network television or on cable, you could probably hear it on AfterBuzz by going on iTunes. So please download all our shows. If you are listening to us and you download us on iTunes, thank you very much. Please subscribe. If you've subscribed, please rate us. We'd love to see ratings. 5 stars are our favorites. I don't know why, but we love 5 stars. And feel free to write down some stuff. It's funny. Somebody gave us a 1-star rating on March 4th, right before we did our first show, because they're like,
really?
What's going on? What's going on?
You could see the data. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we did
like
get
that.
we did get at least 2 to 3 new.
Oh no, we got some
5
new ones and
for
it's
sure.
great. But I love the fact that someone was like, why don't you guys have one? And
We're
then
back.
and now we're back. So now you can give us a 5-star if you like us. Anyway, so moving on. Let's go over to the Roadblock. So
Roadblock.
yes, the Roadblock. So it was an interesting Roadblock. It had a little surfing clue on it.
Yep.
The memory game.
Yeah, and it was pretty much a memory game. And
Who
it
was ready to get totally tubular?
Yes. And I know Max got really excited at that. He's like, oh no, John got really excited
Yeah,
about that
and
too.
Joey, I think all the
few of the
California
guys.
guys were like, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna surf. We're gonna go surf, and it's like, no, we're just gonna look for pictures, images on a
You're just gonna
surfboard
touch the surfboard.
and carry, and
Carry it up the
all
stairs.
over the place. Totally. So, totally. I just said a very surfing reference right there. Check that out,
Dude.
totally. Anyway, now I can't stop. So going into the Roadblock, Pam and Winnie, who rocked it in the set design over on Fruity Top. They're in first place, and they're looking in really, really awesome shape. Followed closely behind by Dave and Connor on 3 legs. So, well, first of all, obviously Connor. They decided to have Connor do this because of there's a lot of walking involved and maybe surfing involved at that point. So Connor got to do that, and Winnie got to do it for Pam and Winnie. So what do you think of what do you think about this whole challenge?
I love the memory challenges. And again, I think if you're a super fan of the show, like myself, you know going into the race, you need to keep track of every place you go to, every person you meet, every challenge that you do. Because even when it comes down to the finale, that last leg, that last challenge before you go to the finish line always has to do with whether it's like the flags of the countries you met or putting things in certain order from leg to leg. You want to always be aware of your surroundings in this game, because that would have been a huge benefit to, Caroline and Jennifer if they had been paying attention to what's already happened. She was completely oblivious.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oblivious. She's like, this is something we all encountered. Yeah. What did you encounter? Are you paying attention to the race?
We've all seen surfers.
And then Jennifer was like, when have we seen surfers? It was frustrating because as a super fan, I'm at the TV going, no, come on. Like, you're supposed to take notes. Like, you're supposed to be aware of this stuff going into the game.
Yeah. What about you? What do you think about that, Jessica?
I thought that going through, you could have looked at each picture and really analyzed it and kind of narrowed it down, whereas some people literally had no idea.
Yeah.
But it's, once again, pay attention to detail.
Yeah, I love these. I love it when they do these things. They didn't do them in the first couple of seasons. They started doing it more recently. They had that one where they had to remember how they were greeted in every pit stop.
Yep.
The different languages,
Yeah.
which was an incredibly tough one because you're so busy, and it's a great lesson because you're so busy trying to be first and trying to race ahead of everyone else that you're not sometimes
In the
taking
now.
in. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
not taking in what's going on, especially the pit stop.
Yeah.
Which is a moment of clarity. You're like, we just made it. You can get to breathe, unless it was the last leg. You get to breathe and listen to Phil and see whoever this person is and their get up and how they say whatever it is they say, hello in their language. And and you get to take that in.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's been going on since, I believe, season 13. The
Yeah.
final leg, or people taking notes, has been going on ever since that
Yeah.
season.
oh, big
9 seasons. Come on.
And then, of
Get the
course-
hint.
and then of course they
You
didn't.
need to have a good memory.
Oh yeah.
Bring a journal.
You need to remember what you're doing. Remember what you're doing. So the one interesting thing I noticed too is they never really said where the pit stop was either. So that
No.
obviously added a little more confusion. I think that added a little more craziness when you're trying to picture what this image is that everyone's encountered.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the back of your mind is like, once I find this, where the hell do I go?
Right.
Where's Waldo? Where's Phil?
Where's Phil?
Yeah, totally. So totally, I said it again. Oh my
You're just on a
gosh.
surfing mood.
I you know what? We're gonna go surf after this. I think.
Oh.
Yeah, totally. You up for it?
I love surfing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
there
it's
we go.
hot in
We're
here.
in
It's really toasty.
We're in
I'm
California.
like trying to blot the sweat and be all classy about it.
I'd be down for a
warm.
surf right now.
Sounds good. So we all saw that the image was the priest, I guess, that from the last leg.
The blessed them.
Tahitian
that blessed
priest.
them. Yes, exactly. So Pam and Winnie seem to have gotten it right on their first pick. They they seem like a very smart team.
Yep.
And they got it right away. Dave and Connor, let's talk about this. So Connor, not as smart. He had a lot of trouble struggling. And then Winnie, even though she got the actual surfboard, she got lost. She didn't know where to go. So she goes back to that surf shop and has a conversation with Connor.
And Connor's eyes do a little wandering.
Yeah, they do.
Well, what do you think of that whole exchange? Because there was a little negotiation in there too.
Right. I mean, in that heat of the moment, I mean, I think it would make sense for anyone to want to ask for help, especially when you see someone ahead of you is doing better. But I also understand why Winnie wouldn't want to make a deal with him, because she wants to get first place. She knows she's competing for first. Why would you want to help someone out? Because in the game, no one really sticks to their word, let's be honest. So,
what about you? What do you think about that whole... You think it was a smart move?
I thought it was a smart move, but it doesn't surprise me that he said no.
Yeah.
Because take second place, well, maybe he could get first.
Right.
And he did, and he got a little sneak peek, so...
I thought he was smart.
That was smart.
He was smart.
He was a little sneaky.
He's all like trying to like, oh yeah, okay. But I don't think he even saw it, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, he did. No, he did a whole...
He had no idea at first what
That's
picture.
right.
Yeah. He had no idea, and then when he saw it, he's like, "Oh, I saw that photo," and then he went and he grabbed the right surfboard. But yeah, a little sneaky. I will say that negotiating for first place, I can understand why Connor didn't want to do that. And at the same time, you're fighting for first and second. It's not desperation yet.
Right.
I mean, you could work together, but at the same time, you don't have to worry. You got 7 other teams that you know are behind you.
Exactly.
The same happened like last season or 2 seasons ago with Ryan and Abby. They were complaining how they weren't getting first because they believed Dave and Rachel kept getting first. I don't even know if they were, this is maybe 2 different seasons. But Dave and Rachel kept getting first every leg, and they're like, come on, you guys, let someone else have it for once.
Yeah. There was that one season when there was that whole whining,
Just
like,
let us win.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. Let's let it win. No, I totally remember that. So yeah, a little sneaky move from Connor, but he got it, and he figured out where to go before Winnie was able to. So yeah, in a way, I think this is history. I really feel the Express Pass, while it was valid last week, it still was a little bit of a cop-out. You know, they didn't earn first place. They earned it in the sense that they had a pass, but this one, they had no extra help. They from beginning to end. They started in first, and they ended in first. What do you guys think about that? They're really strong.
They're definitely going to make Amazing Race history. You know, they're going to be in Amazing Race trivia for, like, you know, online games and whatnot, because they got first 2 legs in a row on a continued leg, no less, while being injured, like hobbling on crutches.
With 3 legs.
Yeah, 3 legs to cross the
They won 2
pit
legs
stop.
with 3 legs.
Yeah. And the 2 of them together, I just think that they know how to fight. And that's why they're so determined to win this. And the 2 of them together, I mean, they really touched my heart, because I've, had cancer in my life too. Not my life, but in my family. And so they're bonding, and I just know what it's like, that when you go through something like that, it puts a different perspective in life. And also the fact that they don't have as many options, so it kind of makes their decisions clearer, because they can't rush, because he's on crutches, and they have to really determine, what they're going to do and who's going to do what, and their options aren't as wide as others.
Yeah, I mean, they're super strong. They're super favorites. They have a great story. Even before this injury, they had an amazing story, and people like them even before the injury. Now they might have a little bit of a sympathy vote, but they really don't need it. They don't need a sympathy vote at this point. I would have to think that if I was another team on this race at this point, something would have to switch and go, you know what? Maybe I was looking at them a little bit differently because of the injury. I'm not directly they're not directly competing with them in this leg, but maybe they have to think in the future. We saw there's going to be a double U-turn next week.
Yep.
Maybe you have to start thinking like, this is a strong enough team, as likable as they are. You're going to have to do something drastic to slow them down. Not cut off the other leg, but just slow them down.
And one thing I did notice is when they were at the airport, no one really knew that they had suffered cancer.
Oh yeah, 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 episodes ago.
2 episodes ago.
Or last episode.
They didn't know, and so I think that's kind of cool that they're not using it as like a pity or feel bad for me.
Right.
That would only help, I think, in alliances anyway. If they wanted to make alliances or they wanted to barter or negotiate. But yeah, I think that's admirable that you're not using that as a crutch, as another kind of crutch, to try and get ahead. And they don't need that. They're just 2 strong individuals, and they're really, really popular. If they had another All-Star season, I could see them doing it.
Oh,
Yeah,
for sure.
I could see them doing, even if there was a second chance, depending on how they do this season, if there was like one of those where they give people second chances again,
Yep.
and they don't do that well, I could see them automatically being the first at the top of the list for people they would want to invite back. So anyway, so we had our first two places, Max and Katie. Still with their sarongs on. I guess they're allowed to keep sarongs from the last one because they kept theirs on. They came in third place, and then we had the country singers Jennifer and Carroll.
Her breakdown
Caroline, and
was
her
pretty
breakdown, and boy, that was pretty sad.
It took her what 3 times to get the right one.
Well, I guess she didn't understand the clue on what everyone has encountered or seen.
Right.
So she thought it was Bali, which is fair. Everyone's in Bali, so I guess they are seeing Bali at the moment. I love the fact that she thought it was surfers too, because I don't know if you saw the symbol, but it was like this cartoon character, like with a thumbs up going hanging 10.
Yeah.
With a wave in the back. Like that was like so cartoony. It's like, do you really think that Phil and the producers of this show would actually put a cartoon character and say, yeah, put the, Woody Woodpecker. Oh yeah, here's Woody Woodpecker.
Right.
No. Come on. So yeah, and then she just broke down and cried.
I'm so tired and
I can't imagine.
4
And that's
days.
when they did the cutaway of
Yeah,
Mona and Beth in the taxi, the Derby moms.
Yeah.
And that's when one of them had mentioned, this is the longest leg in Amazing Race history. This has been going on for at least 4 days
4
now.
days.
Yeah.
4 days. I can't imagine the jet lag, the flying, the transportation,
running.
the heat, the
Yeah.
climate change. There's a lot that weighs in on that.
I would have to think it's also the longest mileage too,
Probably.
because that was a long way from New Zealand to Bali. And,
Sure.
And I can't remember right now off the top of my head where they came from to get to New Zealand, but that was a pretty big distance.
Bora
them.
Bora.
Bora.
Bora. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
pretty big distance for both of those too. But yeah, I guess I can understand the frustration coming in for.
And they
something
were
like
only
that.
in New Zealand for a very short time too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, because they didn't have a stopover. They
Yeah.
didn't have to rest. So yeah, crazy. But I guess they were the only team that really had that much of a break. Well, I wouldn't say that much of a breakdown, but they were the ones that cried. That actually broke down in that way. But I guess I could understand. I do love that finally she was like, all right, let's go with this guy in a headrest. Let's just go with this dude. We'll just bring him over. And I love the reaction when Phil finally was able to check them in and said it was right. So a lot of teams getting lost in this part of the race too.
Yeah.
Like Chuck and Winona. Chuck running like on the rocks at one point.
Oh gosh, that's what I'm talking about. That hair,
the
and the waves.
bouncing.
It was just so dramatic. I would have loved for them to put some like nice soundtrack music,
Like a
to hit, like a
Baywatch?
Baywatch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would have loved that. I live for his hair. Like it's great.
And then also Joey and Megan got to the wrong beach.
Yeah.
And here's the interesting thing. I mean, Bates and Anthony were pretty much in the rear toward the whole time, but I thought it was really interesting that they weren't sure about the logo either, and then they got lost, and they're literally passing the Derby moms, and they're passing I think YouTube, right?
Yeah.
They're passing both of them who are going to the pit stop, and he still got his surfboard. He ignores them and continues going back where he came from.
I know.
That was not foresight at all, I would have to say. But yeah, so anyway, the placement ended up being Max and Katie were third, Carolyn and Jennifer got fourth, even though they had so much time to mess up. Hashtag YouTube got fifth place.
They were so happy about 5th place too.
Yeah, well, they're happy about anything as
I
long as they're in
know.
it.
Joey looked exhausted too. He just kind of threw us like, oh, thank God. Like,
Yes.
it looked like he was, thank God this is over. But what I really loved about that moment was they helped Mona and Beth. Again, that alliance came into play, and they said Mona and showed the image on the surfboard. But then when Mona and Beth check in, and Chuck and Winona come to the pit stop, they go, Chuck and Winona have it wrong, so they have to go back to the surf shop, and Phil looks at the Derby moms and goes, so you're not going to help them? And they're like, no.
I know, that was pretty revealing too. I feel like, all right, I get it, you're in an alliance, but unless you're in Survivor, you really shouldn't be
Given away.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
shouldn't really be giving. You should be.
You've already checked in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just,
But
who
I guess,
cares?
and they weren't the last one in their alliance to check in, obviously. But
Right.
so maybe that was on their mind too. I'll give them that credit. But I mean, Phil called them out, so it wasn't like Chuck was asking for it.
Right.
Right.
So that's the only reason why I
That's
give
true.
them that. So it goes down to the end, pretty much, and the end is Chuck and Winona versus John and Jessica. And John's super psyched. He's like, "Oh my God, surfing tubular! I could totally do this. Totally, I could." He actually
Totally.
he totally said that. And then he runs down there, and Chuck and Winona. Chuck just guesses an answer. Another guy was like, "I think it's this guy."
Yeah.
He gets it right, and Jessica's there by herself.
My heart goes out to Jessica.
And she's trying to talk to John.
Use the express pass. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Nope. He was determined. He put his little flashlight thing on.
He never gave up.
Yeah. Do you think it was a wise move to keep the? What if it wasn't a non-elimination?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It easily could have been.
yeah.
Well, congratulations, you did complete the longest leg in Amazing Race history. That you're not going home. It's a non-elimination. But again, it's Amazing Race. You can't foresee what's going to happen. You have to play it smart the moments they come at you. You can't just foresee the pit stop and be like, all right, well, I'm going to gauge it. This is going to be a non-elimination, so I'm going to hold my express pass. Why? Why do that? You need to think in the moment of what's going on around you before that pit stop.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do want to say, I know you and I have talked about Survivor before. We haven't had a chance to talk yet. I don't know if you're a fan of Survivor
yes.
either.
Of course.
Okay, so I would have to compare Jessica and John. They got eliminated. If people didn't catch that from this so far, we haven't really said that. But Jessica and John got eliminated after an hour and 15 at that challenge.
I
They
know.
were so behind. And they got eliminated, the first team ever to get eliminated while still holding an express pass. So the only
like
thing
a
I could
hidden
think
idol.
of, exactly, I would compare that to somebody getting ousted from Survivor with a hidden immunity idol still
Yeah.
on them.
Yeah.
What move do you think? What do you think is stupider, being on Survivor with an immunity idol and getting kicked off, or keeping your express pass on Amazing Race?
That's I think keeping your express pass on Amazing Race.
I think
'cause
so, too.
Sometimes when you have the idol, sometimes they don't even know what's going on around them, and they're mainly blindsided. They don't see it coming to use it. They feel safe in an alliance. But in the Amazing Race, the express pass, again, you can't foresee what the pit stop's going to be. You need to play it smart in the moment as they come to you. So I think going out the Amazing Race with an express pass is more of a blow than
Especially when he must have known that they were close to like the last team.
right.
So
You're competing for second to last with Chuck and Winona. Like,
Right.
just use your express pass and go to the finish line.
and
Like,
make it. They would have still been on.
Yep.
No, I totally agree. They should have used it. But I will say this, and I'm sure. Well, first of all, John just refused to accept.
Yeah.
And Phil was like, "Don't you feel bad? Don't you feel awful?"
He's
and
like, "I have no
refused-
regrets."
No regrets at all.
I don't even need the $1 million.
But
Yeah.
we want the $1 million.
Jessica was like, "I'm gonna regret this," but John's talking to Phil, and I love that the last line in the show was "Oy vey."
Yeah.
And then they had some little cutesy music at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
You know, da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really, really funny. I will say this: they probably weren't thinking about this, but to me, I think looking a couple years ahead, they wouldn't be that memorable. But the fact that they lost with an express pass,
They will.
makes them an incredibly memorable couple now.
Again, if they do another unfinished business season, they are a top contender just as much as Dave and Connor. Because if Dave and Connor don't win, which I don't think they will, Dave and Connor will be on an unfinished business because they're remembered for being the injured father-son that didn't win.
Yeah.
And then same with John and Jessica, the team that left with the express pass, they need a lot of redemption. You know what I mean? Those are the types of teams you want to see.
And also, I think the other teams are going to really learn from this because they were doing so well. And one mistake can really put you back. And so now I think everyone is going to start thinking in the now. And if they get an express pass or if they have an opportunity, they're going to just go for it.
Yeah.
Before we go on, let me just pitch one last thing here. We, the guys here at AfterBuzz, the producers here, have a movie that's out right now called Serial Buddies, and it's Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro are the exec producers, and Maria's in the movie as well, and lots of great stars in there too, like Kathy Lee Gifford in it, Artie Lang's in it, Chris McDonald, Henry Winkler narrates it, so it's a really good thing. It just came out in theaters, in limited theaters in New York, Los Angeles, Boston, Chicago, San Francisco. Came out on Friday. I saw it. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was really, really funny.
It's
see it. It's out this week. Go see it. I know a bunch of us AfterBuzz people have seen it, and we all loved it. So here's a little pitch for our producers here because we love them and they do a really good job here, and they help us do these shows. So now that I said that, let's move on to next week with some predictions.
Oh, dun, dun, dun.
AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Great. Let's start off with James. He's gonna get his notes set. Let's hear what you got to say.
Well, I'm really excited about the double U-turn. It always, causes some drama on the show, which I'm excited about. But it seems like the Derby Moms and the Team YouTube are easy targets for that double U-turn because everybody knows about this alliance now. And so I'm a little worried that if I had to pick a team that may be eliminated next week, and now it entirely depends on how they react to it. but I can see Team YouTube being eliminated, unfortunately.
Oh.
I don't want them to be, but they, I don't know. I would have to say Team YouTube might get eliminated.
Okay. I that's fair enough. What about you, Jessica? What are you thinking?
I don't think it'll be Team YouTube. I'm thinking, because I feel like they're just so carefree, I think Chuck and
Winona? Team Bama?
Because he really does hold it, and it's, she hasn't really stepped up that much. So, but maybe, who knows? Because we haven't seen it, maybe she has hidden talents,
Right.
But I think Chuck, sad to say goodbye to the hair.
No.
I know.
I find they always seem to last a little bit longer. Those teams you always think are going to go really fast.
Yeah.
They always last a bit longer. So I'm going to say I agree with you on the YouTube and the fact that everyone's against them, but I'm going to go Derby Moms are out.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's going to be Derby Moms
Why?
this time. I just think they've kind of been a little more aggressive.
Yeah.
So they might be targeted, but more than YouTube. So, but anyway.
Well, we'll have to see.
Yeah, we're going to have
I'm
to
excited.
see. So thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. Again, rate us on iTunes, 5 stars if you can, and tune in next time.
Where can we find you?
Ooh.
Oh, we can find. Oh, yeah. You can find me at. Thanks a lot, Marissa, our producer, by the way. You can find me at Nando Vel, Nandovel.
And you can find me on Twitter at James Wallington, WALLINGTON.
And you can find me at Sika Carroll on Twitter, SICACARROLL.
And thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz
you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.